to the Knitrovert Podcast. This is my first podcast, and as the name would suggest, it's all about knitting. My name is Jannetje, and I'm coming to you from Gouda in the Netherlands. This little buddy right here is Pippin, who is one of the cats I live with. She has been with me for a couple of months now, and she's gonna stay here for a couple more months. And she really loves belly scratches, but I'm not falling for it this time. So why a knitting podcast? Well, I love knitting. I've been actively knitting since 2009, and there have been some, times where my knitting mojo was a bit lower, but I'm always coming back to it, so I'm pretty sure that I can call myself a knitter. My grandmother taught me to knit when I was very young, and I actually don't know how old I was at the time. And when I was that young, I didn't really have the motivation or the determination to finish an entire scarf. So I don't really have anything that I finished in that period, but it is something that I've always been going towards, creating new stuff, wanting to be creative and having a creative outlet. Another reason that I'm starting this podcast is because I'm not really a person that is very good at text. Writing texts give me stress, being on forums gives me stress, and it's something that I avoid like the plague. One of the main reasons I'm starting this podcast is because knitting is a big passion of mine. I've been doing it for a lot of years, and it makes me really happy. And something I want to do is share my happiness with others. Be it in what I'm creating, be it patterns that just came out that just look really cool and that I just want to share with people. That's the kind of stuff that I want to get into in this podcast. The last reason that I'm starting this podcast is because it's been something that I've been wanting to do for more than a year, and I keep putting it off because I'm scared. And in my dictionary, there's only one form of failure, and that's the failure of not doing something because you're scared of it. And I don't want to fail. So even if this might not be perfect, I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna learn in the process and just see what happens. Now, let's get started with the whip parade. I'm usually someone that really hyper focuses on a single project until it's done and then starts with the next one. If I stop a project, then it can take a few years before I re-knit it, or at some point I just decide to stop it and I frog it. I'm not counting the frog projects at the moment. I'm only gonna show you the project that I know I'm gonna finish in the next few months. Of course, things can always change, but hey, let's see what's going on. So, the first project. The first project I want to show you is in my Proud to Be a Knitter bag. This is a bag I got from Flying Tiger at some point, and they had all kinds of knitting totes. And I just really liked them, so I took them with me because you can never have too many totes. It's the Spirited Cardi by Elena Nodell, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm looking down a lot, that's where my notes are, so that's why my vision is going that place. So this is the cardigan. As you can see, it's actually pretty much finished. It's knitted in Lace Looks by Lana Grossa, and it's a stash yarn that I've had for years. When I saw the yarn in the store, I just knew I had to have it because burgundy or dark red is my favorite color of all time. The yarn has sadly been discontinued. It's quite soft, but it's not something that I would buy again, mainly because it has lots of nylon and other plastic types of material in it that I'm not really a fan of. I've knit this on 3.5 millimeters, and my gauge was slightly different than the pattern, so I had to account for that, which I did. Some other alterations I did is that the pattern only comes in short sleeves, or I think 3/4 length sleeves, or like half sleeves. And I'm someone who is always really, really cold. And mainly my arms just cool down a lot when I'm behind my desk all day. So that's why I always knit long sleeves if I get the option. Another alteration, and the reason why it's not finished yet, is that I decided to add a steek, because originally the pattern is knit flat, and since it's this long, I didn't want to do that. So what I did is I added a steek down the middle front, and all I have to do now is pick up over here and then knit. Now, I've been putting that off because the main problem I have is that this is all I have left of yarn. I think it's about 9 grams. And I really don't know if I'm gonna have enough. So I'm not really sure what to do. For the same yarn base, I do also have 2 other leftovers, which are quite dark in comparison. And I think they do match, but seeing as I haven't really used other colors in the project, I think it would be a bit weird to just have one band of grey in the middle. So the yarn issue is something I'm gonna have to think about another day. I love how the the cardigan turned out, but yeah, I do still need to fix that steeking part, because right now it just doesn't look good, and it's also kind of, dangerous because it could fray. Right, next one. The next pattern that I'm going to talk about is in my La Vienna May tote that I got at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Although it doesn't have any of her yarn in it, because what's in here is my stonewood pullover. It's in this beautiful Gilead yarn in the colorway Nuit, the blue one, and the contrast color is JC Rennie Chunky Aran in the mid-gray color, I think. This is a pattern by Skein Knits and has great sizing. It's written up for, let me check, 80 to 154 centimeters, or also known as 31 to 36 inch bust, which I think is great. It's very, very thick and warm, which is the reason that I'm currently not knitting on it, because I started this in December and just stopped knitting for a while, and I don't really have a use for it at the moment. Now, the point at which I stopped is really stupid, because I only have a small bit of ribbing left to do. But hey, this is just the way it works, and I'm just currently really not in the mood to knit a iron weight yarn. Let's see. I'm knitting this in the needle sizes that she calls for, but I do have a different gauge. I did swatch to begin with, but I decided to go with her needles to work with the sizing a little bit and to make it fit me better. That does mean, however, that I do have to work with the row gauge a bit, because all the stitch counts just work perfectly for me in the size I've chosen. But the row gauge is off, so I have to alter it for that. Loving this, really excited for the weather to become less warm again, so that I can wear it, because I think that I'm going to be super toasty in this. The next project I want to talk about is in this John Arbon Textiles project bag, and it also actually has John Arbon yarn in it. This is a pattern that I saw while watching Lerka from Fibertails Podcast, and it is a shawl that she's designed. It's called the Woodlark shawl, and I'm gonna get a bit closer so you can see. It's just a beautiful colorwork shawl. I'm knitting this in John Arbon Devonia 4-ply in the colorways Ivy Leaf, which is the dark green color, and in Sage, which is the lighter green. I was a bit worried that the contrast wouldn't be high enough, but I think it works out because it's just very, very pretty. I love the low contrast. Now the reason that I was so excited for this project is because it was my second colorwork pattern ever. The Stonewood is actually my first colorwork project. And it's a shawl that is knit in the round. So well, there is still some purling, but a lot less purling than normal. I do still have to do the steek, or cut the steek. You can see it looks like this. I have no idea if that's in focus, but I'm just hoping. I still have to cut the steek, but before I do that, I have to run it underneath the sewing machine. And at the moment, I do not have the energy to grab my sewing machine from upstairs, so that's just gonna have to wait for a bit. I'm loving this. I can't wait for it again to get a bit colder so that I can actually wear this, because it just seems like it's going to be so squishy and warm. Now the pattern says that you're going to need most of your contrast color, but I still have a lot left. Like this is actually pretty much this is actually quite a lot, and I'm not sure if my gauge was just really off, which could be I haven't checked because it's a shawl and I don't really care. It seems big enough. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna save it, or well, yeah, I think I'm gonna save it anyway because I always do. But I think I'm gonna use it for something that I'm gonna talk about later. So more on that later. So the last work in progress that I want to talk about is the one that I cast on most recently. I cast this on the 19th of May, and it is the Dissolve sweater. I bound off the bottom hem last night, which I'm very happy about. The Dissolve sweater is a pattern by Marion M. Knits, and it's a yoked fade sweater. I'm actually mainly using this for the yoke. All the other things that I am, all the other numbers I'm calculating myself because I am using way different yarn, super, like a lot of colors, and I am also just altering the length and the amount of ease and everything like that. Now, I'm knitting this. This is a fade, but her original fade is for something like 3 to 6 different colors you can choose, and it goes over 10 rows. But that would be too much for me because I am using a mini skein set that I got in my advent calendar by Tammy Wee Colors. This is in her Tough Sock base. I've put it on this string because these are the colors that I'm using. Let me just... Hello, cat. Yes. So it goes all the way from there to there. These are not all the skeins that I got in the advent calendar, but they mixed well together to make a nice fade. So that means I had 14 mini skeins worth of 20, which are all 20 grams, to make this sweater out of. Which is... Hi! So we have a short kitty intermezzo. Hi!
Do you want scratchies?
Oh, okay. Apparently belly scratches are in order, so you guys are gonna have to put up with this. So I had 280 grams worth of yarn, which should be enough for a cropped cardigan, or a cropped pullover, I should say. It's just that I had to calculate a lot with the different fades and how many rows each color was gonna have to be. So I swatched beforehand in a color that I wasn't gonna use, and I did three swatches. I'm usually a very, very goody two-shoes when it comes to swatching. I almost always swatch. And I don't really mind that much, actually. It's like part of the process for me, and I get to enjoy thinking of how awesome the project is going to be from the beginning. So I made swatches, and I calculated the number of rows I needed per 10 centimeters, and then I calculated how long the sweater was going to be till it hit my waist, which was 41 centimeters. So in the end, I decided that if I'm going to use 14 skeins, or 14 colors, that each color would have about 11 rows to work the color. That means that in those 11 rows, I also had to do the fade. So what I used in the end was, I used the Fibonacci sequence. So each color starts with 1, 1, 2, 3, and then it goes back to 2 and 1, 1. I can put up a diagram, I think, to make this a bit clearer, I hope. And if not, then I'm sorry. But yeah, it worked out. I am quite happy. If I would knit it again, I wouldn't have used the top green color, because as you can see, that's the most clear, or it's the most obvious that it's fading, because as you go higher, it just becomes less and less obvious. And then over here you have a part where there are some stripes again, but I don't really mind it that much. And then some more pink. Oh no, I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm gonna have to sit. Now, people who know me will think this is actually a very odd choice for me. I don't do pink. I have never liked pink. And it's not something I really go towards, but I have this awesome skirt in my closet that I bought at a secondhand shop here in Jara, and it has lots of pretty flowers in it, and I love it. It also has pockets, which is amazing. But nothing in my wardrobe goes with that skirt, except for basic black t-shirts. So these colors that were in this advent calendar actually were a perfect match, which is the reason that I decided to start making this. Now it is a bit crinkly, and it's a bit wonky and everything, and I'm really hoping that's gonna block out. The other, like these, became quite soft. So I'm just hoping that this will just all block out, and that all the wrinkles that are up here will just be gone after I washed it. I am going to have to knit the sleeves still, but that is going to have to wait until I finished a cal that I'm gonna do with some friends of mine, which I will talk about in the stash acquisition segment. So I'll see you there. So, stash acquisition. The funny thing is that I told myself at the beginning of the year that I did not really want to buy more yarn because I don't have a very big stash, but my stash is decent enough, and it's something that I could be just fine with for more than a year. But the main problem was that I don't have any yarn that is good for summer projects. Everything is either BFL or some sort of chunky weight, or just everything is wool and warm, and well, if last year was anything to go by, this year is not gonna be, we're not gonna have a cool summer. So I decided to buy some linen yarn, and the reason I decided to buy the linen yarn is because a friend of mine shared shared a pattern in a WhatsApp group that we have for knitting related stuff. And 2 other people just immediately fell in love with the pattern. So we decided to create a cowl for ourselves. The pattern in question is the Song d'été. And I sadly do not know the pattern designer's name at the moment, so I will put that in right here. It is a top. It's a summer top with a very nice neckline, if I say so myself. And it requires linen yarn. More specifically, it requires BC Garn Lino. And so we ordered it. And I bought this lovely petrol color that is just not really coming across right now because it's more light and more, well, greenish blue in real life. Let me just see if I get others with it, it's better. So yeah, it's really pretty. I have 6 skeins in total for this color, and I'm actually very excited. I love this color. It's not something I actually have in my wardrobe yet, so that's gonna be very cool. And it still matches my theme, which is kind of moody colors with gray undertones with it. So I think that's gonna be very pretty. Now, I'm someone that has a bit of issue with impulsivity. I have ADD and I can be very impulsive at sometimes, especially when it comes to buying yarn. But in my defense, I do have other projects in mind for this, so hear me out. My favorite color of all time, as I've already said, is dark red or burgundy. And last year I knit the Knitrovert Top by Knitrovert. It wasn't out in English yet, so I translated it, and that was actually pretty fine to do. But I made it in Holst Coastal. No, not in Holst Coastal. Not in Holst... What's the one with the silk in it? I'm gonna put it down here. And it's just too warm. I also made a mistake in the yoke and made the yoke too short, so it's very high up in my armpits, and that just makes it very sweaty and smelly, and I'm just gonna have to frog it at some point, I think, or lengthen the yoke at some point. But, so, I saw this color and I thought I have to have that because it's me, it's basically my color. So I bought, again, 6 of these colors. I only have 4 because I only have so many hands. And the reason that I'm not knitting the Song d'été in this one is because my Knitrovert top is already in blue, so if I would save the blue color for that one, it would be a bit more of the same that I don't really like. So this one is gonna go to that pattern, and I'm just really excited to get it started, but it's gonna have to wait until I finish the cowl. Now, lastly, I have 2 other colors, and that are these 2. This is the Mittelgrau, as it was called on the website, and this was Flieder or Flider, I can't remember. And I got all of these, I got them from the Juffrouw Lanterfant website, which is a shop here in the Netherlands that I hadn't actually ever bought anything from before, and I didn't know it existed until I searched for this yarn. So I'm actually very excited because the different kinds of yarn they have are right up my alley. Yeah, so these are 2 colors, and they're only 2 skeins, but they're for 2 different objects. Same pattern though. With these I'm going to knit the Fit Knit bralette, and I'm going to knit them for a friend of mine, because I think she's going to be very happy with it. Yeah, and I've never really knit anything like that. Usually it's something I stay away from because I don't really feel comfortable in that kind of thing. But, you know, why not? It's fun, and I think it's going to be a quick knit, and another friend of mine is also going to knit it for herself. So it's going to be a good way to, you know, do it together and teach her some stuff in the meantime, because she's a beginner at knitting, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think she's a beginner knitter, so I think that's gonna be great for her. It's something short and sweet to get started on. And this is not a color I would pick for myself, but it is a color that I do like knitting with, so knitting it for someone else is a great way to still work with these kinds of colors without having it in my own wardrobe, because I'm just never gonna wear it. So yeah, those two are gonna go to that pattern. Now, Juffrouw Lanterfant was actually really nice, and she also added some extras in my order. She added this knitting progress keeper, which is a 4-leaf clover, so you could say I was really lucky. She also added some wool wash, and this is in the jasmine scent. I've never used this brand before, so I'm actually really curious to see how it turns out. So that's fun. The packaging was also completely plastic free except for this thing. The tape was paper tape. The inside was filled with paper, so everything was nice and neat. I love the idea of using less plastic. I try to avoid plastic wherever I can, and I also try to use organic yarns and like completely plant-based or animal fibered yarns whenever I can, because it's something I can do for the environment, and I think that's very important. So that made me super happy. Last but not least, a friend of mine has become a second-time parent, or how would you say that? He has gotten a daughter. He already has a son, and he and his wife just got a new daughter. So I'm super excited, because in my group of people that have babies, this is the first girl ever to be born, and I like making cute things. So, not to say that you can't make cute things for boys. I actually usually try to make things that are very gender neutral, because I like also wearing gender neutral stuff, and I think it's great because then you can reuse it for babies at a later point in time. But you know, you can just take some liberties, and usually I feel with lots of knitwear that I feel it suits more for girls. That said, I always used to have that feeling when I was knitting for boys, and now that I'm trying to search for a pattern for a girl, I'm like, but isn't that more for a boy? I'm not sure, and it's just completely stupid, because you can make it for a boy or make it for a girl. It just depends on what you feel like it represents. But main thing, the only pink yarn I have is currently in the sweater that I was knitting for my skirt. I do still have some lilac, which might work, but it is in a very scratchy yarn. Well, it's in a BFL sock yarn that is not entirely soft, and I'm not sure how sensitive the baby will be, because I don't really have a lot of experience with it. So I wasn't sure. But I've been stash raiding, and I've been making one swatch at least. So this is a sock snake that I got from a friend of mine for my birthday. It has cats on it and fish, and it's in a grey color, and then you have darker stamps of the different forms, and it's just really cute. So I've swatched this, and you can see that it comes out stripy, and I think this might just be too moody. I think it's just too moody for a newborn baby. I think I'm gonna have to search for something else. So I did that. I stashed over a bit more, and I realized that I still have some MCN lying around. I bought this a few years ago. It's really soft. I knit a pair of socks with it for in my bed before I realized that that just doesn't work for me because I don't wear socks in bed. I only wear them in boots. And MCN and boots do not mix. So, you know, they were only shorty socks, so I still have a lot left. And I think this could be great for a baby hat or something like that. This is yarn by Stranded Dye Works, and it is, I think, the first Frost colorway. I'm not quite sure. It's a bit darker in here, but I think you can get the idea. So it has like these blue and purple speckles, and it's just really, really nice and soft, and it's just so squishy. So I think that's a good contender. Yeah, so I think I would like working with this, especially because what's left of the skein is not enough for a project of my own. I could not knit an adult hat with this, I think. So I think this is a good alternative. The last alternative that I have is a monthly yarn, a sock club yarn by Nora George. And this is the Back to Hogwarts colorway. And it's just so colorful, and I think it's very, very cheerful and bright, and all the different colors are just very nice. I wouldn't use the contrasting color, I think, although they might actually like that, but we'll see. Yeah, I think this is a great contender. I was really looking forward to making a pair of socks for myself with this yarn, but I mean, in the end, who's really gonna see my socks? And maybe I can still use them for a little bit, because I only really use 50 grams for one set of socks. So yeah, this yarn is just, it's great. I love it. And it's also very soft because it's super wash merino and nylon. So it should also hold up in the wash, which is also great. So another good contender. So with these three, I might be making something in the near future. Now, as I said in the beginning, I'm not really someone that has a lot of whips going on at the same time. I've already showed you 4, and there are at least, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish plans that are in the works right now. So that is becoming a bit overwhelming, and I'm just hoping to maybe finish some things quickly so that I can get rid of them in my to-do list. But yeah, we're gonna have to see. Maybe some will just go on the back burner for a bit, because like the Stonewood sweater will not really be worn anyway for the next couple of months, and yeah, so it doesn't really make sense to work on it right now, for me at least. But yeah, I'm just really hoping that I can make something pretty, and I want to make them happy. So that was my first podcast. I am currently at 42 minutes on my phone, and I'm gonna take some things out and, you know, edit a bit. I'm hoping that something useful will come out of this, or that I can actually use it and post it online. I hope you've enjoyed your time with me. Thank you very much for joining me. And I really hope to see you guys again. In the meantime, enjoy your knitting, enjoy actually whatever craft you're doing, and be kind to each other. And yeah, I will see you in the next time. Bye! I think all the talk about yarn was a bit too boring for Pippin, because she's very sleepy now. Aren't you, Pippin? Yeah. Hi. Was it too boring? Was it too boring? Aww.